Hello, everybody. I am so happy to join you here this week, coming off of a break. I am another year older, joining you this week, and I'm excited to be with you to give you all the latest on what is going on in Gainesville. And if you've been watching my channel recently, we have given you lots of videos on Gainesville and the growth that's happening. And it's really surprising because it just feels like every time you turn around, there's more and more that is being announced on what is coming in Gainesville, Hall County. So, one of the best things about the Gainesville area is that the overall price point of homes is a little bit lower than what it is in some of the other areas like Cumming, obviously Alpharetta, Buford. And so you have the benefit of having more inventory with a little bit less home prices, but the town is starting to get really good. And so today we're going to dive into some more things that are coming and in the works and development. So if you're just joining us, let me know where you're watching us from. I'd love to know in the comments. Drop that below. Say hello. And of course, if you have any questions about making a move to Georgia, questions about the market, anything that you want to know, go ahead and put those down there and we will make sure to bring those up and make sure that those questions get answered for you today. I have a Ronald Acuna Braves thing behind me. The Atlanta Braves are in the playoffs, and Ronald Acuna was named Player of the Year. He's had an amazing season. So that is super exciting here locally and what's going on. If you're a Braves fan watching baseball across the country, you can't deny that he's really great. And if you're thinking about making a move, then you got to become a Braves fan, right? You also have to become a Georgia Bulldogs fan. Unfortunately, like that is the team here in Georgia that you have to root for. And they gave us quite a scare this past weekend. Barely squeaked out a win-ish over Auburn. And even though we're the defending national champions 2 years run in a row, I don't know that we're exactly playing like we're defending national champions. So I'm curious to see if college football is big where you're at. But here in Georgia, it is huge. And SEC football is super huge as well. So if you're joining us, please let me know where you're watching in the comments. And if you have any questions, let me know. So let's get into it. What is happening in Gainesville? So if you watched my channel or watched any of my videos that I've made on Cumming and Alpharetta area, there is a huge outdoor shopping center in Alpharetta called Avalon. And it is a great outdoor shopping center. So the Avalon, it's outdoors. You've got high-end luxury stores like Chanel, and there's a Tesla store there. You also have stores like J. Crew, Anthropologie, and a lot of great, really good restaurants that are there. And in addition to that space, you also have a great hotel and event space. And then you have apartments. And then you also have within walking distance, as part of kind of like the development, single family homes that are a little bit more like townhomes. But that is what is located right there in the Avalon. It's just a really fun experience to shop, but also enjoy the outdoors, because here in Georgia, you can be outside pretty much year round without having to worry about the weather too much. So it is a really great development in Alpharetta that's really caused a lot of growth and development right there around it, and people love going there. Another outdoor shopping center that's kind of similar to the Avalon, maybe not as robust, is the Halcyon. That is located a little bit north, also in Alpharetta, but close to Cumming. And that is another, they have stores there, not as many, not as robust and as many as the Avalon, but there's also great restaurants there. Well, there is a proposed development in, I'm saying Gainesville, but it's really kind of over in the Brazelton area, that is proposed to be another Avalon. And this was kind of shocking to me that Gainesville area may get something like this. So I'm going to share with you some more details around that, what that would look like, where it's going to be located, and how that might impact you if you're thinking about making a move to the area. So first, let me share with you the recent article that just came out. So the headline here is "Another Avalon in the Making in South Hall at the Gwinnett County line." So an Avalon-like development might be coming, and I'm going to show you on a map where it's going to be located, but it's going to be called Thompson Mills Village off of Friendship Road in Georgia 347. And it's going to feature massive retail and office space, homes, and a 200-room hotel. So very much like the Avalon, you're going to have a hotel there, office space, and retail space. They're hoping to get construction going within the next 9 to 18 months. Now, this hasn't fully been signed off on by the Hall County commissioners, but it's up for a vote next week. So this is almost close to coming to fruition. Here is the 95-acre mixed-use development. They're trying to add a little bit more acreage onto this to make it a little bit more robust. It's going to feature almost 530,000 square feet of office and retail. They're planning for 168 residential units and that hotel room. That's just on the Hall County side, 200-room hotel. On the Gwinnett County side, there's going to be an additional 200 and almost 55,000 square feet of office space. You've got planned for 100 townhomes, 70 condominiums, 263 apartments, and almost 1,400 senior living units. Peach State Bank, which they've had a sign out there on the road here, they are going to have a big 10,000 square foot branch too, and they're breaking ground on that next year, next summer. So you might be asking yourself, like, where is this located? Well, it's going to, well, let's see here. Let me just share with you the site plan directly from the builder, and that can give you a more complete picture. So let's get that up for you. Let's get that up for you. Okay, here is the proposed master site plan for this development. So it's going to be, if you're in the Gainesville, Brazelton area, right across from Northeast Georgia Health System in Brazelton. Now, this is very close to several 55-plus communities. You've got Village at Deaton Creek, which is just across the street. And then behind that, you have the neighborhood of Chateau Avalon. Let me share with you where this is located on a map, because I think it would be helpful for you to see that. So let me pull that up for you. Now, this area is already busy. Now, the good thing is that it has a bigger road. So it's a 4 or 5 lane road that is right there in the area. So that's going to be helpful for this development. But here we go. Getting this map up for you. All right. So let's zoom out and then we'll zoom in, right? Okay. So we've got Gainesville all the way up here. You got Cumming that's down here, Buford, Swanee over in this direction. All right. And then here we have Northeast Georgia Medical Center in Brazelton. Now, this is their secondary location. They also have a hospital in Gainesville. So let's zoom in on this. And as you can see, Chateau Avalon, that is a huge neighborhood and golf course, great winery. They have a hotel there as well, a big gated community. And this is 85, which will take you right on down into Atlanta. So this stretch of road in between 347 and 211 here gets very congested. There is a lot happening in between the interstate and this stretch or this intersection right here. So at this intersection down here is where you would find Northeast Georgia Medical Center. This whole swath of land right here, that is where they're planning on putting this development. And it would have some pretty big implications. So the Village at Deaton Creek, that is a 55-plus community. And then Chateau Avalon also has an additional 55-plus community that is right in here. So that would have big impacts for traffic and, it would be very welcome, I would think, at least from a shopping retail perspective, because what you have over here in the area, you have grocery stores. So here at Dunkin' Corners, you have grocery stores there. Kroger, and you have a Publix, and you have some restaurants, but you don't really have much options for retail shopping nearby. You have to kind of drive a couple of exits away. So that is something that I think would be a plus for that area. I think the downside for the area is going to be the traffic. They are going to have to do something traffic wise with the plan between that intersection where essentially where that would dead into all the way over to 85. If you travel over there right now, it's a nightmare. There's also a D.R. Horton community that is going in across the street from Chateau Alon that they're putting several hundred homes there. And that intersection is right before the interstate is already so crowded. If you're planning on having to get to the interstate, it can take you 10 minutes just to go a mile because of how heavily traveled that road is, and everyone's trying to get to the interstate there. So that can make it quite difficult, and they're going to have to do something with that road because it's just not going to support all of the growth and development that's happening around there. So this proposed Thompson Mill Village is being proposed on Thompson Mill and 211. So it's not directly on 211, but you're going to have a lot of traffic that's going to feed off of 211 that you're going to need to be mindful of. So let's go back and take a look at that site plan. If you're joining me here on this live stream, if you are a local, I'd love to know your input on what you think about this. And I'd love to know where you're watching and joining us from. And of course, if you have any questions or comments about making a move to Georgia or the real estate market, let's talk about it. I'd love to get your input on what you're feeling, what you're thinking, and any questions that you may have. So let's go back to look at this Avalon that could be happening in Gainesville/Brazelton. All right. So this site plan, now the website says a site plan for a senior development center, and yet the newspaper article from the Gainesville Times called this somewhat of an Avalon. So here you can tell that, let's see here. The purple section here is going to be age-restricted, 62 plus, active adult area with concierge service. So that's what's in the purple. In the pink here, it's going to be multifamily apartments. You also have some condos that are taking place. And then here in the gray is mixed-use development. So retail, office space. Also, all the orange is also retail and office space. It looks like they're also planning for a wellness center as well. So, out parcels for retail, they're going to have dining, office space, medical space. So a lot that could go in right there. It sounds really exciting. I can't think, though, that the Village at Eaton Creek and Chateau Alon neighbors are, I wonder what they're going to say about this. I don't know that they're going to be maybe exactly happy, or maybe they will be. I'll have to get some input from some of my clients that live in that neighborhood to kind of see what they're thinking. So I want to share with you another development that is being planned right around the corner from this, essentially in the same area and kind of the same thing. So there's a lot happening in Brazelton, Gainesville area. So this is a development called Reviel. I think that's how we're saying this. If anyone French is watching this, I'm sure there might be a better pronunciation of how you say this development. Now this has already been approved. They just broke ground. They're starting to grade this right now. So let me share with you information on this development. Now, this is going to look very, very similar to, if you're familiar with the area, and if you've watched any of my videos, I've shared some videos for you in the neighborhood of Reunion. And that neighborhood is very much, I like to tell clients that it's kind of very Americana. You have a lot of craftsman style houses. The neighborhood kind of makes you feel like you're in the set of a movie. All the houses are just beautiful, but they're all different. So it's not very cookie cutter. And the developer really paid a lot of attention to the architectural detail of everything in that community. Reunion is just not that far away, but this development is going to be architecturally kind of similar to that. It's going to have a very distinct feel. So let's share with you about Reviel. All right, so this is also a mixed-use development, and let's see here. Let's get into exactly what it's going to look like. So they kind of have some renderings here of some drawings of what the home sites and retail space might look like. They're planning for a lot of green space as well. So this is going to be again, huge development with lots of space and lots of things planned. Now, this is also just off of 211. So I just shared with you how congested I feel like 211 is. Well, this is a little bit going in the opposite direction, but still kind of right there in that area. And so this space that, again, it's already been approved, they're planning for a town center with townhouses, also a hotel, single family homes, a retail village, an event facility, a church, and more townhouses and a proposed parkway that would connect all of this together. So you have a lot going on and happening in this area. Let me see if I can get my screen up. I'm going to show you exactly on a map where this is going to be in relation to where we just were. So let me get that back up for you. Let's go back over here to this map. Okay, so essentially right across the street from Northeast Georgia Medical Center is where this Thompson Mill project was going to be. Well, if we went right up the road here and took a left and went past Jersey Mike's, you've got a Starbucks shopping center, little shopping center right here. There's a few things here, but essentially this land that you're seeing right here at the intersection of Union Church Road and 211, this is where they are planning for that development. And not planning, they're breaking ground on it. They're starting to build this. So that would be two mixed-use development spaces right next to each other in this congested area right here off of 85. And so just to go back a little bit, what I'm saying is in between Northeast Georgia Medical Center and the interstate, that is where traffic is terrible right now. And this is also where another new construction home is going in from D.R. Horton. So a lot of development that is happening in this area. So let's go back and take a look at the site plan for what they have for this Reviel community, because it's going to be, I think, visually, I think it's going to look amazing for what they have planned. Oh, that's the wrong one. See, there's just so much being developed here in Gainesville, Brazelton area that I'm getting my mixed-use developments confused. All right, so here we go. All right, so back to this plan. Let's see. So they are wanting this to really kind of attract empty nesters and young professionals. And it's going to have a walkable neighborhood with sidewalks, parkways, and street signs, ample green space, civic space to be able to kind of enjoy that mixed use development property. I wonder if they haven't announced any stores or anything at all for this community, which I think is interesting. But here's some of the amenities that they think that the residential units are going to include. And this is in addition to the outdoor restaurants, the hotel, the office space. They are going to have a clubhouse, a fitness center, an outdoor pool. That's in the HOA for the neighborhood that's going to be there, a coffee lounge with internet cafe, covered pavilion. It's going to be pet friendly. They're going to have a parking garage and street lights. So I would hope they would have street lights, right? Here it says that it's going to have 219 single family homes, 945 townhomes, 560 multifamily residences, so apartments, 220 cottages, as well as a 25-unit assisted living community. That is a lot, right? So again, I just can't believe that all of that is going on in that area. So I'm curious if you're watching the live stream, I would love to know if you're considering making a move to the Gainesville, Brazelton area. Are these projects that I'm telling you about something that excites you, or is that something that you could do without? I know that if you ask locals here, you'll see a lot of times locals will comment on the channel, on the videos, like, stop, we're full. We don't want any more development. And I can say, though, that recently, as someone that lives in Gainesville, the downtown area has recently gone through a great revitalization. We've had a lot of new businesses open up there. They've built parking garage. They just had an amazing hotel that opened up downtown called the National, which is partnered with Courtyard Marriott. And let me tell you, Gainesville needed a good hotel. When I have clients that would contact me and they say, hey, we're looking in the Gainesville area, what hotel would you recommend we stay at? There's nothing wrong with a Hampton Inn, but the best Hampton Inn is like in Flowery Branch, which is a 20-minute drive away. And the hotels that are kind of in the Gainesville area are just and they're not in the best areas, or not in an area that I would want you to get a great first impression of the area. So I'm super excited about the downtown Gainesville area. There's a lot of great restaurants that have recently opened. So that's been really, really nice. And I do have to say, kind of like the one downside to this area for me, someone that's lived here now for 9 years, is the fact that Gainesville doesn't have great shopping. And when I say shopping, it's really nice that there's the new restaurants in downtown Gainesville area. It's great to go there, but there's not really a whole lot of charming restaurants, ambiance places that you can go and kind of visit for a while outside of the lake, that like you have kind of in Cumming. So Cumming has the city center area that just opened up. You also have, oh gosh, I'm drawing a blank, but Cumming has an outdoor shopping center as well. It's really close by to Halcyon. And you also have the Avalon, which is just really close to Cumming. And so it's a short drive. Here in Gainesville, like if you want to kind of experience any type of shopping or kind of be outdoor and kind of have that mixed use development, you're having to drive 30 minutes away down to the Mall of Georgia area in Beaufort. And, you know, who wants to get in a car and drive 30 minutes when it would be great just to have something really nearby? So I think it's really cool if they can attract some great restaurants, that would be very welcome. And if they could attract bigger stores, that would be very cool. Now, Gainesville does have a mall, but I have to tell you, the mall in Gainesville is as dead as a mall can get. You have a Dick's Sporting Goods. There is a Belk that is open, which is a department store, kind of like a Southern department store. That's it. That's all that's there, essentially. I'm sure there's more like smaller stores that are open on the inside, but it's like something you don't really want to go to unless you absolutely had to go there. There's way better options that you could get in a car and drive to. So the mall is definitely dead, but they did recently announce a couple months ago that someone bought the mall, and there is plans to revitalize that area. So that would also be a welcome change. So I feel like there is a lot of great things happening in the Gainesville, Brazelton area where there's a ton of development happening. If you're thinking about buying a house in this area, the good thing is right now, relative to Cumming and Beaufort, Suwanee, home prices here are decent in comparison. So, you know, you're going to spend in the mid 400s is the average price point for a house right now in Gainesville. There's lots of new construction options in and around Gainesville for you to choose from as well. So if you are someone that wants new construction. Now, one of the things that I have to point out, if you're considering Gainesville, if schools are important to you, if you go and look at greatschools.org ratings, it's not going to show a pretty picture. So Gainesville itself, Hall County. So one thing that you should know is that there's Hall County schools in Gainesville, and then there's also Gainesville City Schools. Not every county in Georgia has both. There's only maybe like 13 or 14 areas that have both, but Gainesville is one of those. Gainesville City Schools, obviously you're limited to Gainesville city limits. You're not going to find a whole lot of new construction happening in Gainesville city limits. It's a small area. It's very developed and built out. A lot of kind of older style homes there, close to downtown. Gainesville city schools, just okay ratings. Hall County schools, you're going to get a little bit better ratings. And what you're going to find as a former teacher that used to teach in the Hall County school system, uh, those great schools.org ratings are not the end all be all. I strongly encourage you to talk with people in the community, talk with parents, visit the schools. A lot of these schools that have 5 and 6 ratings here locally are something that people seek out. And whenever I talk to a lot of clients that are thinking about making a move from out of state, they often ask me, like, what do you think about the schools, or what do you think about crime? And my response to that is always do your own research and think about it. These developers investing hundreds of millions and billions of dollars in infrastructure for these outdoor shopping centers, for these, multifamily apartment complexes and these single family home neighborhood developments. These builders would not be putting this in an area that people aren't seeking out and that they don't want to be in. They're not building it in those areas. So kind of look to what's happening in the city. Is it like a dead city and dying, or are people, developers, businesses spending money and putting money into those areas? That to me is a great sign of what you would want whenever you are looking for an area to invest in real estate. Not only because you need a great home for your family, but also because you want to see a good return on that investment. Carl, thanks for asking a question here. You asked, what is the square footage price of those homes at 400,000? So typical square footage that you're going to find in that 400,000 range is going to be between 2,000, mid 25, 2,800 square feet or so. Sometimes you can find larger houses. It just really depends. So if new construction is what you're after, you're definitely going to be on that lower end of the price point, or lower end of the square footage range for those types of houses. If you're open to a resale home, that's when you're going to get more square footage for your money. But that is definitely something that is a good thing. You're going to have options if you're looking in and around Gainesville and Brazelton. Now, I always have to tell this to clients. If you're thinking about a new construction home, you're likely going to have a smaller yard. So that's also going to be a trade-off between new construction and resale. Most developers and builders are building neighborhoods that have new construction homes at about 0.2 acres to a quarter of an acre, sometimes a third of an acre. So that's typically what you're going to find with a new construction home. And for most resale houses, you're probably looking between a third and a half of an acre size lot for resale homes. So something to keep in mind as you're maybe thinking about considering making a move. Thank you for that great question. So if you're watching and if you have a question about the housing market, please make sure that you drop those below. If you're thinking about making a move, ask your questions just like Carl did, and I would love to answer that for you. I had a viewer write into me yesterday, and he said, if you had to choose an area, where would you choose? And it's such a hard question to answer because for a lot of my clients, really your limiting factor is your budget, kind of your budget and what kind of house you're looking for and what kind of feel you want out of the town. So if you're kind of open to a lot of different areas, I think the most important place to start to answer that question is, what is your budget and what kind of house are you looking for? In his case, he wanted new construction, only new construction, and he wanted really great schools. School ratings were super important to him. And so based on his budget and based upon the fact that he only wanted new construction, I was like, hey, your options are Buford or Cumming. And that is where you need to be looking. And he's like, well, what about this area? And I was like, it's great, but your budget doesn't fit that. Or they don't have any new construction options there. So therefore you don't, unless you're open to a townhome, that's not an area for you. So if you're someone that is also kind of in that boat, I would strongly encourage you to think about, what is your budget and what kind of house are you expecting? Look on Zillow. If you are not seeing what you're wanting on Zillow in the price point in the areas that you're looking, it's likely because what you want is now at a higher price point. And that's just an unfortunate reality that we have in the real estate market. Sometimes I get, clients that will reach out and they'll want us to help and they'll tell me what they're looking for. And it's like, I would love to find that too. Like they're wanting a ranch on a basement with an in-law suite on an acre of land for $400,000. And they want to be in a great school district and they want to be close to a grocery store. Yeah, I could sell those all day long if I had those. It's just unfortunately that's pretty expensive now. So just things to keep in mind. So we kind of start with your budget and the house that you're looking for, and then we can kind of identify some areas that have those, and then we can kind of talk about which of those are the best areas for what you're looking for. Carl has a follow-up question. Are they in an HOA community? Most of your new construction options are going to be in an HOA community. Occasionally, you can find homes that are new construction, not in a HOA community, but these are going to be homes that are kind of built on the side of the road. So it's like where a builder has bought a couple of acres of land and he's able to put 3 or 4 houses there right next to one another off the road. That's typically what you're going to find for new construction homes. Now, if you're open to resale homes, Gainesville area, Brazelton area has a lot of communities that are not part of an HOA, but for sure, those are going to be older houses, older, homes that were built in the 80s, 90s, maybe early 2000s where they're not in a neighborhood. Anything kind of newer, you can kind of fall in the fact that it's going to be likely in an HOA community. Now, one thing that I've learned a lot of things from my great clients that I've been able to help from all across the country. I grew up in South Georgia where they did not have master plan communities. They had neighborhoods, but HOAs and neighborhoods with swimming pools were just not a thing. So when I moved up here to the metro Atlanta area and became more familiar with HOAs, this is the only HOA type of neighborhoods that I've really known. And what I've learned from clients that I've helped from across the country where they're coming from HOAs is that the HOAs here are drastically less in fees. So you're probably looking at, for like a small HOA, $200 a year, sometimes $400 a year, to the average of $1,000 to $1,200 per year. And usually the mid to higher price point HOAs are going to have a neighborhood pool, but the rules are much less restrictive from what I've been told, comparatively to HOAs in other parts of the country. So what I always tell clients is that just drive around the neighborhood, get a feel for what the neighbors' yards look like, what they have in their driveways, if they have a basketball hoop, what the fences are like. And that's going to tell you a really good story of what that HOA is like in the neighborhood and how strict or not strict it is. Because, some neighborhood HOAs are going to say, hey, you can only have one type of fence and all the neighbors' fences are going to match. Or you might drive into a neighborhood with an HOA and you're going to see lots of different fence styles. And you might see some neighbors that have chickens, So obviously that neighborhood with an HOA is much more relaxed than the other type. But I would say that we have more HOAs that just have the general restrictions that you would maybe hope that your neighbor would follow. That way your neighbor's not like painting their house like purple, or they're not putting broke down cars in their driveway or front yard and just leaving them there for the next 10 years. That still happens in Georgia in places. So, great question. Thanks for asking that. So if you're like Carl and you're watching and you have questions, let me know. If you have comments, if you have feedback, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. So let's go back to kind of like that Brazelton, Gainesville area. And one of the things that for clients that live in that area, there's a lot of young families that live there. And then there's also a lot of empty nesters, retirees. There's great retirement communities over there. But a big kind of plus for that neighborhood is the fact that there's Northeast Georgia Health System Hospital there. And now they just opened this hospital maybe 5 years ago. So that is a plus for the area, that you have healthcare that's right there. So if you need an emergency room, it's right there. You don't have to drive into Gainesville. You don't have to drive down into, I guess the next closest one would be Buford, Lawrenceville area. We've got Tim joining us from Marietta. Welcome. Thanks for joining us. All right, so let's talk about what's happening at that hospital. So this is something that, it's going to be right across the street from that new development that they're planning or trying to get approved. But one thing that you need to know about the Braselton Hospital is that it keeps growing and growing, which is great because there's a lot of demand for great healthcare in the area. And Northeast Georgia Medical Center has a really, really great reputation. As you can see, they are adding a whole nother wing to the hospital, and they are adding floors to that hospital there as well. So that additional space is going to allow them to open up 48 new beds. And that's going to help alleviate, they said, some of the wait times that they've had when they've needed to expand services. But this is just part of phase one of the completion that's expected to be completed the summer of 2025. It's also adding 235 square feet of clinical space, 2 new patient care floors, and 150 more acute care beds that would bring the hospital's total bed count to 284. When that new patient tower is finished, it's going to be 8 floors total. So this is a really huge plus because sometimes for some care you have to go into Gainesville, but most everything could be done right there. And another thing that is, I think, super important is that it's also going to increase the treatment rooms in the emergency department from 23 to 46, and they're adding a second helipad. So that's going to make for faster, more life-saving surgical care and helping with, heart-related problems and things like that. So that is definitely a great sign of all the development and growth, and that we also have the local hospital keeping up with the demand for services that you see and experience in those types of areas. And I know that for a lot of those retirement communities that are nearby, that is very important to continue those care services as well. So we've got Victor watching us from Long Island, New York. Welcome. Is it cold where you're at, Victor, yet? I wonder what the weather's like up there. Here in Georgia, we're welcoming fall, right? So it's knocking on the door. It's a little bit cool in the mornings, cool-ish, not really much. The past couple of weeks, the high's been like in the low 80s. I think the whole country, though, is pretty much getting a cold snap that starts to happen this weekend. The low on Saturday or Sunday here is going to be like 45. That's crazy. That's really cold for this time of year, but that's just the low. It's going to heat back up into like low 60s during the day. But I'm, super excited for that type of weather. Oh, not yet. I wonder, though, what do you consider cold, Victor? Like, what's your temperature right now? I'm kind of like a dumb Southerner when it comes to geography and what weather's like. And I just assume that everything up north is cold and everything south is hot. So that is something that I find surprising when it comes for people that are, when I learn that, it's also 60 degrees where you're at. And I'm like, but that doesn't make sense because you're all the way up there and we're all the way down here. So something to keep in mind. Well, if you have any questions about making a move, let me know in the comments. We'll make sure to answer those. And I want to make sure that we get to any questions that you may have. And I really think that if you're watching this live stream, you have availability to move any place in the Metro Atlanta area. I would strongly encourage you to look at Gainesville. So many people that have come here recently have just fallen in love with the area. And a lot of people are always kind of like pleasantly surprised about Gainesville. Oh, Victor says, cold for me is 20 degrees. I would agree. But for me right now, this time of year, anything like less than 50 degrees is cold. 20 degrees here down where we're at would be like super cold. It hardly ever gets that low here unless it's like at night in the middle of the night. And I'm warm in my bed at that time. So Timothy says something we are not prepared for was the EMD good faith deposit. Okay. That is a good point. So what Tim is referring to is earnest money deposit. So in Georgia, whenever you are purchasing a house, whether it's new construction or a resale home, part of the contract process is that once you come to an agreement, whenever you make an offer, you have to tell the seller how much earnest money you are going to give. And earnest money is a good faith deposit. It's kind of like a prepayment of your down payment. It does go toward your down payment, but it's money that you put in up front, telling the seller that you're serious about this offer and you're making this in good faith. Now, it's a negotiable amount of money and it varies kind of depending upon the circumstances of what the market is right now. So, for example, during the crazy kind of pandemic unicorn years, a good earnest money deposit was 2% of your purchase price plus. Right now, a more normal kind of earnest money deposit is around 1% of your purchase price. Sometimes you can negotiate less. It's a negotiation. So you can fill in any amount that you want whenever you're making that offer. But most sellers have kind of become accustomed to a 1% deposit. Now, that earnest money deposit is protected during the due diligence period of the contract. So here in Georgia, we have a time period called due diligence. That is when you have the ability to do your due diligence. And those are going to be things like home inspections, termite inspections, septic inspections, any kind of inspection that you want to do on that home. That too is a negotiable amount of time. Typically right now, what's normal is 7 days. If you're in a multiple offer situation, you might want to shorten that to 3 days. So that's something to keep in mind. But your money, that earnest money, is protected during that due diligence time period. So let's say that we have a 7-day inspection time period. One, you can wake up at any point and just say, "Oh, I'm getting cold feet and I don't want to do this anymore." You can terminate and get that earnest money back. That's why a seller wants that to be as short as possible because they're nervous that you are going to change your mind. That money is also protected because of the inspection. So let's say that you discover something in the inspection that causes you not to want to buy the house anymore. You can terminate so long as it's during that due diligence period and get your earnest money back. You could also terminate if for some reason you couldn't come to terms with the seller on repairs that you wanted to have done as a result of the inspection. You would get your earnest money back. Now, outside of the due diligence period, the other time period that protects you for that earnest money has to do with your loan. So if you have a financing contingency period, and during that time period, the lender finds out something that they can't loan you the money on the house, so long as it's because of those financial reasons, you could terminate and get your earnest money back. Now, at that point, you can't change your mind anymore. It has to be because of the loan. That's also a negotiable amount of time, and usually it's between 14 to 20 days. It's also protected during the appraisal process. So if you have the appraisal contingency in place, if your home does not appraise for what you're under contract for, and you can't come to an agreement with the seller that's mutually agreeable, you can terminate and get that earnest money back. So you are protected. Tim says that we had great sellers that wanted 2 at first, and you could negotiate it down to 1%. Yeah, so whenever you're working with an offer, a seller, a good agent on the other side and a good agent on your side is really helping you look at the whole picture of everything that you're offering. So how long your due diligence period is, how much earnest money you're putting down, what your other loan terms are, all those things kind of factor into how great, that offer is. And so sometimes you don't necessarily need to go to that 2% mark. And of course, the sellers can ask for that. But just like Tim found out, you don't have to, right? It's a negotiation. So sometimes they can kind of go a little bit back and forth. So yeah, I'm awesome. I'm glad that you got that worked out. Yes, Victor, looking to sell in New York and move to Georgia. We have lots of clients right now that we are helping do just that very same thing where they're selling in one state to help move here. So I would love to get connected with you and help you kind of work out that plan and what that may look like for you and your wife, and talk a little bit more about what you're looking for and how we can help. So Tim says, come on down. It's great. It is great here. So my contact information is directly below this video. And of course, you can go to my website and find me there as well. So yeah, well, I so appreciate everyone joining us tonight on the live stream. I hope I gave you some great information about what's coming to the Gainesville area, mostly Brazelton area, right? And of course, if you haven't already liked and subscribed to the channel, make sure that you do that. New videos every single Sunday. We're here with you live every single Wednesday, answering your question and letting you know about what's going on here in the market. If you're thinking about making a move, I want to be your real estate agent. So I would love to personally be able to help you. My contact information is directly below this video. And if there's a question that you didn't get to ask, go ahead and send that to me and we'll make sure that we get that answer personally for you. So thanks for joining me tonight, and I will see you next week.